It's our pleasure to share and work with the League of Women Voters for this forum. They'll be administering and leading the operation, but the MCC thanks you. This is, I think, one of the first virtual candidate forums anywhere on the coast, certainly. So welcome. The proceedings of this will be recorded and available on YouTube. So with that, I'll turn it back to the League.
Great, thank you. And Len, we would love those links of the recording when you have them, because it will be better than the Zoom recording that we have, and then we'll link to it as well on the League website.
Okay, will do.
Great, thank you. All right, hi everybody. I am Margie Gator, a member of the League of Women Voters of North and Central San Mateo County. I will be your moderator for this Midcoast Community Council candidate forum. We want to thank Len and the council for sponsoring this forum tonight. Virtual candidate forums have some unique features, but we think we've designed a process for using the conferencing apps that will give everyone a good experience and follow the League's long-standing and well-received process. We have a host and a timekeeper, that's Kathy, and a moderator, that's me. And the host is responsible for the technical management of the meeting. Your video is turned off by default, except for us and the candidates. And everyone's on mute except for us and the candidates. This allows the candidates to speak without interruption. We urge everyone to submit questions. You can do that by the email LWVN as in Nancy, C, SM as in Margie, C, questions@gmail.com. Probably at this point, it's easier to put them in the chat to Kathy. And then she will message them over to me. No campaign literature or other material, including campaign backgrounds, is permitted in the meeting. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization of both men and women whose purpose is to promote active and informed participation in government. We appreciate the interest and efforts of groups such as the Midcoast Community Council in presenting events that increase voters' knowledge about the candidates and the issues. The purpose of the candidate forum is to provide an opportunity for the candidates to be heard at one time and to be questioned by you, the audience. We hope that by bringing the candidates and voters together face to face, the voters will be better informed and make wise decisions when they vote. We appreciate your interest in coming out to learn more about the candidates. And again, the questions really are the engine that drive these forums. We will spend most of the time on them. Tonight, you will hear from the candidates for the Midcoast Community Council. There are 4 candidates for 3 seats. The term of office is 4 years. The candidates in alphabetical order are Andra Anderson, Greg Dieges, Jill Grant, and Dan Hagerty. The forum procedures are as follows. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. Then we'll have a question period. During the question period, each candidate will have a minute to answer. All candidates will have an equal time to speak to the question. Then we'll have closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. As noted earlier, Kathy is the timekeeper. And again, if you have questions, just send them all over. All the questions come to me, the moderator, and I sort them by subject, and we do our best to cover a variety of topics. We sometimes don't have time to ask all the questions, and I may rephrase or combine some at times. All right, it's time for opening statements. The candidates, as all of you have seen, have drawn lots to determine the order in which they will speak. Each candidate has 3 minutes, and we will start with Andra Anderson.
Hi, my name is Andra Anderson. I live in El Granada with my husband, an adult special needs daughter. I have 5 other children who have moved to various locations throughout the country. I moved here from Los Angeles in 2014 when the corporate functions of my company decided to relocate to our corporate headquarters in San Mateo. I do not have any experience in public service, but have a very large range of experience in many areas of business, having served a variety of positions over my 35 years at my company, which started in TV production and moved into finance, legal, human resources. At present, I am responsible for global facilities, environment, health, and safety for a well-known gaming company. I believe that my business experience has taught me, among other things, to be a good listener, work collaboratively with a team, and to build positive relationships with others. That is my statement.
Thank you. Next is Greg Dieges.
Thanks for holding this forum. My major concerns center on the issue of sustainability. I've been involved in the water and sewer agencies out here on the San Mateo coast, the MCC, CAL FIRE, the County Office of Sustainability. I became interested in our local governance when I arrived in 2012, and I began by reviewing the financial projections for a new Montera Fire Department. I then did a 55-year analysis of the pension plans proposed at Montera Water and Sanitary District. I participated in their strategic planning and finance committee meetings for years. I created an updated asset foundation assessment for Kishin at SAM, the Sewer Authority Midcoast, and I used that valuation to do the same thing for Montera. And I added additional Montera data to prepare the first financial planning model of MWSD. I've analyzed capital expenditure decisions at SAM and shared my decision approach with that board. Many of you have heard me speak at the MCC and at those agencies. And I've been working in the area of sustainability since 2003, when I founded MIT's largest alumni speaker program on clean technology. See it right there. Thanks to the emerging Zoom technology, we're now going national, beginning with Tom Steyer on September 28th. And I convinced John Holdren, the longest serving presidential science advisor in history, to speak 9 days after the election. And that should be an interesting one. Now, I mention all this because it shows that I've been involved, but I wanted to go a little further with my time. In mid-2018, I did a quick and dirty financial forecast for our 4 local public works agencies, and it showed that they would all be massively bankrupt a few decades out, which led me to begin a project in growth, infrastructure, and sustainability. We're on the front lines of sustainability here on the coast, and so I've interviewed a variety of people over the past 2+ years: public works board members, mayors, consulting engineers, water and waste management vendors, real estate lawyers, developers, planners, town council and agency board members, public works general managers and staff engineers, hydrologists, architects, transportation engineers, professors, town managers, historians, etc., from Switzerland and across the United States to here. The partial result of that research has been a series of articles on Coastside Buzz, published under the Own Voice menu item as In Perspective. So if you want to know what I've been thinking about a variety of issues, please read those articles. And there are more to come, and I'd like to think they're worth your time. I am concerned about the issues of sustainability of our Midcoast water supply, fire preparedness, and the sustainability of our entire public works infrastructure in the county. One thing I often find missing is the concept of fiscal sustainability, but there are also concerns about the water supply and quality in the face of the climate crisis, which I feel are particularly acute in California.
Thank you. Next is Dan Hagerty.
Yes, I want to thank you, League of Women Voters, for holding this. I know you guys spend a lot of time, and I really appreciate it. So I just wanted to say, for anybody that does not know me, I've been here in El Granada for almost 32 years now. I grew up in the Sunset District of San Francisco, so I've been by I've been by the ocean my entire life. I spent many summers on farms that my father owned, so I had a lot of experience going through small town America, driving from San Francisco to Minnesota to Oregon. And I think that has a lot of influence in some of my views today. So, some of the big issues that are going on right now, currently, fire danger, evacuation, with making sure that the evacuation routes are clear. There are some, that have a lot of eucalyptus and trees growing close to the road. And the fear is that if there was a fire in that area, that could block the evacuation. So I've been working with members of the community and now the county, and it sounds like we're getting a little traction on the idea I believe that community involvement is really the answer to the Midcoast's problems. We as a community need to be more united and active to really get the county to hear our voice. I understand that we all have our own individual lives and we just don't have a lot of free time to get involved. So what I mean by this is, every little bit counts. Some of the other big issues on the coast side are traffic flow. I'm very open towards keeping the flow moving and doing whatever we can do to actually, improve that. One of the things is that I've been advocating for another number of years is pedestrian underpasses. It's really the only tax dollar investment that can actually make improvement to the flow of traffic. There are many already existing in the area, in the county. Many are being used and built around the state, nation, and the globe. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we go on to the question period. If you have a question, please go ahead and submit it. Thoughts might come to you later as you hear some of the issues. Each candidate will have a minute to answer the question, and I will vary the order in which the candidates will respond. So with that, our first question is, what do you think the most important issue facing the Midcoast community is at this time? What do you think the most important issue facing the Midcoast community is at this time? And we'll start with Greg.
Well, I already answered that. I think it's sustainability. There are a number of aspects to that. I think the most immediate one we need to take action on is fire preparedness. I've been working with Dan and Barbara Matheson, coming up with a list of issues on fire preparedness. In September 2018, before the Paradise Fire, I reported my concerns about fire preparedness to the MCC, and I did a survey of the pressure on all the hydrants in the two water districts here, CCWD and MWSC, which I also reported. It took 2 years, but CAL FIRE just last week finally shared with me the ISO report, which is the insurance agency report for our region. And that's going to lead to an article and some more recommendations to the MCC on fire preparedness Midcoast. So I would put that in the most immediate category. I think the water supply is a bigger long-term issue, and it also relates to fire preparedness. I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you. And next on this issue is Andra Anderson.
Hi, I think for me, the biggest issue at the moment sort of dovetails into the fire preparedness, but it's access in and out of the coast side. I think when that goes into the transportation, I believe that with the amount of traffic that comes in and out of the coast side, it's a very important problem, especially if we were to, like a few weeks ago, we almost felt we had to evacuate. And it was very clear that we weren't very sure that we were going to be able to get out of the area very quickly. So I think that ties into the transportation issues that we have here.
Thank you. Thank you. And finally, your most important issue on the coast side for Midcoast is Dan Hagerty.
Well, with the recent dark day that we had, I think it's really brought home to a lot of community members that fire danger is a very high concern. We are at an extreme elevated fire danger risk, according to CAL FIRE and CPUC. The maps are posted. We, not only the fire danger, but evacuation. Recently a lot of community members have been getting involved and sharing their ideas. I think that it is time that we now is the time to take action. If we forget about it and get on to the football season, it may not, action may not really sink in. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is, what is your interpretation of the role of the Midcoast Community Council with regard to its relationship to the county and its voting constituency, the Midcoast residents? What is your interpretation of the role of the Midcoast Community Council with regard to its relationship to the county and its voting constituency, the Midcoast residents? And first on this is Andra Anderson.
I feel that the Midcoast Community Council is a communication conduit between both the community residents and the county. I believe one of the big responsibilities of the council is to be the advocate for the community members that live here, to be able to get their views across to the county, and to also to be able to help the county understand the views of the citizens in the community and make sure that their voices are heard. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on this question is Dan Hagerty.
Yes, earlier I touched on the fact that the majority of the community, has their own lives and they have their own things that they have to do. So I think the role of the MCC is to really respect the community members and represent them. And sometimes it's a disagreeing voice in the direction of the county. I think we have to stand up to the county at times. Sometimes they're with us, and sometimes they're just not. There's separate interests between the community and the county government. And I think that that is the elephant in the room. People need to realize that, and people need to have members of the council that will actually fight for the community.
Thank you. And finally on this question, Greg Dieges.
Got to agree with both of the prior speakers. The first duty of an elected official is to listen to all the constituencies here in Midcoast. But I also plan to proactively continue to gather advice from people with decades of experience here, including board members of our public agencies and the more senior current and former MCC members like Lisa Ketchum and Chris Johnson, who's writing such great questions. I would agree that we are a communications conduit, but I would hope to have a more activist board council, as Dan has indicated. I would like to see more oversight or management of the county's responsibilities. And I can cite a number of cases where the county itself is not properly managing things. So I hope to take that activist role, gather the community's feedback, and turn it into results.
Great, thank you. The next question is, the Midcoast Community Council observes or tracks the activities of many government bodies. Which one would you be most interested in following and why? The MCC observes or tracks the activities of many government bodies. Which one would you be most interested in following and why? And for this, we will start with Dan Hagerty.
Well, I live a 6-minute walking distance to Pillar Point Harbor. And I have witnessed presentations of some major developments in the harbor property. They were well shot down at that night that I was there. The one thing that I remember was another community member stood up and said passionately that the existing Pillar Point Harbor is a postcard picture, and let's not destroy it. There's a lot of views that have been blocked since I've moved here in this area. I don't think we need to block more views, and the harbor would be the one.
Thank you. Next on this question is Andra Anderson.
Well, I am not as experienced as either Greg or Dan on this subject, and being new to this, I don't really have an opinion on which agency I would be interested in, but my passion, as Greg's, but I do not have the experience that he carries, is sustainability and environment. I was trained as a climate reality leader by former Vice President Al Gore last year. I have taken my company to a 95% diversion rate in sustainability, and I'm working on a global scale now with my company. And so for me, it would be sustaining the coast side character and the resources of the coast side. So whatever agency would be responsible for that would be where I would like to put my efforts into. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Greg Dieges.
I've already interviewed board members and the managers of every one of the 4 local agencies, and I am heavily involved with Montero Water and with SAM right now. If I had to change or add one, I would take a look at CCWD, because that's where El Granada gets its water. And it doesn't seem that Half Moon Bay is aware that there'll be a 68% cutback in water supply in Half Moon Bay if the Bay Delta plan is adopted and we have a drought. The cutback will be 58% up through years 3, and from years 4 through 8, it will be 68%. So I think somebody needs to be looking at CCWD and what Half Moon Bay is doing, continuing to grow in the face of likely future droughts.
Thank you. Our next question is, how will you work with the local sheriff department to enforce laws or prevent drug dealers and other criminals from committing crimes in the Midcoast? How will you work with the local sheriff department to enforce laws or prevent crimes in the Midcoast? And for this, we will start with Greg. Yes, Dieges.
Well, the MCC has done things that I would suggest we continue, which is to have the sheriff come and speak to the MCC about the concerns that residents have raised and what they're doing. I don't know that we have a law enforcement role other than to support the legal agencies in the enforcement of the rules that we have out here. And both as a resident and as an MCC member, I've done that and will continue to do that.
Thank you. And next is Dan Hagerty.
So I want to thank the Sheriff's Department for all of their service. I understand that there are some petty crimes here and there. I think the major work for them is traffic safety. I've seen a lot of speeding cars. You get a lot of these young guys nowadays. They have the Flowmasters on their Mustang. They've got almost blacked out windows where if a pedestrian was crossing their or a vehicle was trying to kind of get an idea if this driver can see them, it's very difficult. It's impossible. So I'm going to continue. I've been advocating for enforcement on the tinted windows, and
Thank you.
I will continue.
Thank you. And finally on this is Andra Anderson.
Hi. Well, I would think, as in anything, it's more about collaboration and communication, and to get the community and the Sheriff's Department to get to know one another and to be partners in fighting crime. Thank you.
Thank you. In your opinion, next question, what is the Midcoast Community Council's constituency? In your opinion, who is the Midcoast Council's constituency? And for this, we will start with Greg Diaz.
Didn't I go first last time?
You did, but I built my grid for 4 people and it's 3, and
okay,
I got to go with the 3.
All right. So there isn't one constituency out here. We have obviously citizens, we have residents who are not citizens, We have property owner taxpayers who are not residents. We have a lot of visitors. We have corporations and small businesses. So there isn't a single constituency. You have to listen to all of them. Now, balancing the competing priorities is really the challenge. So what I would say is, as I said before, we have to listen, and all those constituencies are valid. We have a duty to the visitors as part of the California Coastal Act to service them as well as handle the needs of the residents.
Thank you. And next is Andra Anderson.
Well, I don't think there's much more I could say that Greg hasn't said. I mean, we have a variety of people that we need to deal with and listen to, and that are important for our area. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Dan Hagerty.
Yeah, I think the Midcoast constituency is essentially the majority of the people. That consists mostly of residents, but also all of the visitors and the stakeholders, the business, the visitor serving community, and all the small businesses up and down the coast side.
Thank you. Our next question is, do you support the removal of eucalyptus trees from Quarry Park and other parts of the Midcoast to protect property and lives? Do you support the removal of eucalyptus trees from Quarry Park and other parts of the Midcoast to protect property and lives? And for this, we start with Andra Anderson.
On the face of it, I would say yes, but for me, I would have to do more research. I know that they are not native trees, but I think when you start taking everything out, you could create other problems. So I think it's something that would need more, I would need more education on to make an informed decision on for my part. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on the eucalyptus trees is Dan Hagerty.
Yes, I do support, but it's a sensitive issue, I understand, and the way to do it is to do it in phases. The eucalyptus trees tend to block out growth of other vegetation, not all. There are instances where redwood trees are growing near eucalyptus trees, but if you really want to have the appropriate vegetation, the appropriate trees for our area that are not in extreme fire danger, we need to, I think, clear out a path and replant and provide necessary compost to really allow these new plantings to thrive. There's been a lot of work around the region already with eucalyptus removal, and the eucalyptus have been a serious problem with fires in other areas of the region.
And finally, Greg Dieges.
Well, not only do I support it, I had an interview with Nicholas Calderon, the San Mateo County Directors of Parks, on Friday, and I'm trading emails with him and his staff to finalize a plan for that removal. People should be aware that there are at least 3 agencies or entities with responsibility for those trees. In addition to Quarry Park, which is San Mateo Parks, there's the GGNRA and a cluster in Montero on a bluff of eucalyptus trees. And then finally, there's the avenues, Alhambra and so forth, down in El Granada. That is unclear whether GCSD will take any responsibility for that removal or whether it's a private residential issue. But I will be writing an article later this week after I complete an exchange of emails with Nicholas to make sure I understood what he was saying and to try and identify and prioritize the steps in a plan to getting those 3 agencies and entities to look into the problem.
Thank you. Our next question is, how might you ensure that new and diverse voices from our community can remain involved, educated, and heard within the scope of the Midcoast Community Council? How would you ensure that new and diverse voices from our community can be involved, educated, and heard within Midcoast Community Council? And for this, we will start with Dan Hagerty.
Well, that's an easy one for me. I've been an activist for quite some time. I'm out there in the community. I've had a number of petition drives. One was with the El Granada post office lot. Another one was with the stoplight at the Graywell Cove. So, you know, it's about making time and deciding when is the right time to really get out there and do the hard work. It does consume your time, but the thing is when you get many members of the community to do just a little bit of help, you know, the world changes. So, thank you.
Thank you. And next on this is Andra Anderson.
I believe that it's about getting people engaged, which requires you to build positive relationships and collaborate with others and work as a team. So a lot of it would be, as Dan said, getting out there, talking to people, and starting to try to get people engaged in the community and to better the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Greg Dieges.
Well, those of you who have read my articles and posts on Nextdoor know that I have, you know, created polls and gotten people involved in a number of issues through social media. I also speak a little bit of Spanish, and I reached out to the Pillar Ridge community. They don't currently have a venue for us to come visit, but I hope to establish one there. I also served on the Climate Ready Task Force in San Mateo County for a number of sessions, and I met several community organizers, and I hope to continue to be engaged with underserved communities up and down the coast as part of that effort.
Thank you. Our next question is, should the Midcoast Community Council have more policy and budget authority? Why or why not? Should the Midcoast Community Council have more policy and budget authority? Why or why not? And for this, we will start with Greg Dieges.
There's some background here that I got to admit I do not fully understand, but I have heard that the MCC became contentious almost to the point of irrelevance a few years back with the county. Now, I don't want to say that the county is doing everything correctly, but I hope we'll have a collaborative, responsible dialogue with them. I do intend to push them on a number of budget issues, and I have discovered that the county, for example, does not keep track of the flow of funds for property taxes and expenditures mid-coast. It astounded me. They also don't keep track of the perpetual costs of some of the public works improvements they make, like traffic stuff. So I do think we need more of a voice in policy. I hope to do it through influence, but I also obtained through one of the election people that I spoke to the procedure for citizen public initiatives. It turns out it's posted on the Santa Cruz County website, not on San Mateo. But I hope we will be able to, if push comes to shove, begin citizen petitions in San Mateo County for some of the remedies that we need.
Thank you. And next is Dan Hagerty.
Yeah, I do think that we should have more policy and budget authority. I don't think that it's going to be easy, and I don't think that we'll ever get much. But, you know, whatever we can, I think will benefit the community of the Midcoast.
Thank you. And finally, Andra Anderson.
I don't have any information or background on that subject. Thank you.
Okay. Our next question is, do you support the Cypress Point Family Community Housing Development as proposed by Midpen Housing? Do you support the Cypress Point Family Community Housing Development as proposed by Midpen Housing? And first on this, sorry, Greg, is Greg Dieges.
No, I don't support it as proposed. I'm not arguing with the need for affordable housing, but anybody who has traveled Carlos Street knows that that is just not a safe place to have a single exit for potentially 300 people living in a clustered community. There's also the issue of lower hydrant pressure in that area, which is okay for single family dwellings, but they're going to be building fourplexes. And I've seen no plans to enhance the infrastructure for fire safety or to increase the firefighting water storage necessary there. So there are major flaws with what the county is doing. There's also environmental issues, which they've totally ignored. The EIR report done by Midpen was a sham. They even typed in the name of the city and the address wrong in their search for documents. So there's a lot that needs to be fixed. And there actually are other areas out here in Midcoast which would be better.
Thank you. And next is Andra Anderson.
I agree with the fact that we need low-income housing. I have looked at that project. I am not opposed to the project itself, but I think there's more work to be done with regard to transportation and the timing of the project. And I am not sure that the project as designed today is exactly the way it was proposed. And I think there's some changes that came in with the last revision that wasn't exactly the way they had explained it to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Dan Hagerty.
Yes, I am against the Cypress Point project as it stands. You know, the natural access to this project would be on a very dangerous curve. And I want to give a lot of credit to Resist Density that has really consolidated all of the issues from environmental to traffic impact and on. But there are many complications to this design. I think one of the biggest is that, you know, it's just not an appropriate place for low-income housing. The services are just not in walking distance. And yeah, so
Thank you.
I think that we could do better.
Thank you. Our next question is, how will you get the county to listen, let alone act for a voting constituency of less than 13,000 people? How will you get the county to listen and let alone act for a voting constituency of 13,000 people? And for this, we will start with Andra Anderson.
I believe that, again, it's working collaboratively with the county, creating relationships, communication, bringing the issues to them without being attacking or aggressively, you know, to do things in a positive manner. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Dan Hagerty.
Talking. You know, sometimes I like to talk and sometimes I don't. But I think as a community, it's very important that we talk to each other. And, you know, we all know that sometimes there's issues that people just don't want to talk about at the moment. But it's good to throw out the seeds of, you know, hey, community member, you know, think about this, this, and this. And, you know, when you're ready, come to the MCC and you're, you know, you're always allowed to speak at public comment. If, you know, if the idea is not on the agenda already. So really just as a community, you know, encouraging people to check into the MCC website and to ask questions about the issues and to have have people out there that understand what's going on so that they can guide people along through the process.
Thank you. And finally, Greg Dieges.
There are several, I'll call them levers, that are available. For one thing, the county has a fiduciary responsibility. It has legal responsibilities in stewardship and environmental compliance. There's also a coastal commission. And I believe that if we pick our targets properly and provide evidence, which we're in the process of gathering, as Dan mentioned, thanks to Resist Density, we can make a case that they're violating some of those legal and statutory responsibilities. I agree it has to be cooperative and not adversarial, but I think if you put stuff out there in media, newspaper articles, and so forth, perhaps even a factor of public embarrassment will help move them to do the right thing. There, unfortunately, is also a legal solution, which we'll have to reserve.
Thank you. Our next question is the term, quote, retaining community character, end quote, is often used as a term to support residential segregation. Given this, would you be open to considering changing the MCC bylaws to clarify the use of this term and to address inequalities on the coast? The term by retaining, retaining community character is often used to support the term residential segregation. Given this, would you be open to considering changing the MCC bylaws to clarify the use of this term? And first on this is Dan Hagerty.
Okay, so I don't know that I agree with this question. I think it's very important to retain the community character. I grew up in the Sunset District, which was basically built out in the 40s, very, very well designed. Excuse me. A lot of beautiful buildings, had the ocean views from every avenue. You know, I think that it's very important, it's very significant. What we have is retained, and we do not really endorse any giant sore thumbs sticking out of the beauty that we have already. So I think that that's what the term means to me, retaining community character.
Thank you. And next on this question is Andra Anderson.
I agree with Dan in a way. For me, what comes to my mind is there's an area in my neighborhood, there's a little tiny sort of cottage house, and next door to they built it a large, modern apartment building that towers over the house. And to me, that's not preserving the community character. I think that I don't quite understand the question. It sounds like it's a segregationist type thing. I just think it's not preserving the sort of atmosphere of the coast side. And that's what I would like to do, to preserve the character and atmosphere and small town community feel of the coast side. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Greg Dieges.
I would be open to revisiting the bylaws on this, but I want to echo something that both Andra and Dan said. As far as the height of buildings, it turns out that Lisa Ketchum did us a big favor by restricting Midpen to 28 feet, because the ISO report shows that we don't have ladder service for fire. So we would have been creating not only an eyesore, but also a major fire risk. So I think the issue is going to take more discussion. We're balanced on a precipice here between decay and gentrification. If you recall the most recent water rate increase, there were hundreds of protests because people literally can't afford to pay the increase. On the other hand, by not getting the increase, the water district is underwater in its reserves and is in jeopardy of not being able to service the community. So we have to balance people who can afford to pay that infrastructure bill with sliding toward gentrification or decay on the other side. And this is something that needs discussion.
Thank you. Our next question is about traffic. Given the traffic woes of the coast side, what are some of your specific traffic improvement recommendations? Given the traffic woes of the coast side, and what are some of your specific traffic improvement recommendations? And for this, we'll start with Greg Dieges.
If you read the Connect the Coast Side report, you saw $160 million being spent, and it just didn't seem to make sense, at least not to the residents. So we have at the MCC a number of very pragmatic recommendations ranging from improving the crosswalks in Moss Beach to a center turn lane there. They don't have one like in Montera. I think for something on the order of $10 million, we could take the MCC's pragmatic recommendations and do just fine. Now, if, on the other hand, the county insists on increasing the population out here and we pass the tipping point, well, then the new development that comes in is going to have to fund the rest of the traffic controls and problems that they're going to generate the need for with the extra traffic.
Thank you. And next is Dan Hagerty.
Yes, there's been some talk in the community about traffic calming and really slowing down the traffic. I was coming home from work today. There was a guy in front of me that was going about 40, maybe 45 miles an hour, probably a tourist. I looked in my rearview mirror and there were about 25 cars behind me. It is, I think it's very important that we focus on keeping the flow. I think there are clearly some areas on the Highway 1 corridor that we should try to slow down a little bit. But I've heard people speak of slowing down the complete coast side to 25 miles an hour. I think that would be just an absolute mistake. We have to get the cars through. If we don't, we'll just have gridlock 24/7.
Thank you. And finally, Andra Anderson.
I read the Connect the Coast Side report. At the time I read it, I did not agree with traffic circles, although I did some research after that on traffic circles just in general and understood why they're beneficial and that supposedly they do work, even though I never thought much of them. So those might help. I also, for me, it's the parking situation, that people that come to recreate on the coast side don't really have any place to park. I don't have a solution for it, but I think it's something that should be looked at because it slows the traffic down and makes it a very dangerous road, especially on the weekends. Thank you.
Thank you. What decision made by previous office holders do you disagree with and why? What decisions made by previous office holders do you disagree with and why? And for this, we will start with Greg Dieges.
I don't know what office holders we're talking about here. If we're talking about the county or the MCC, right now, I can't think of an MCC position that I would be vehemently opposed to. If we're talking about county decisions, I don't view those as necessarily final, but the placement of Cypress Point, that's an issue. And there remains to be seen whether Big Wave is going to pay for the fire storage, firefighting stuff it needs. So if there's anything I would say is the county hasn't done a groundwater study on the coast since 2010 based on 2009 data. And I would like to see the county take into account the water supply before they plan any more population expansions.
Thank you. And next is Andra Anderson.
I'm sorry, I have no information on that subject. Thank you.
Okay, and Dan Hagerty.
Well, there's been a community council approval of looking into traffic circles. And at the time when they first came up, I was open to learning more about them. Since then, I've done a lot of research, and I understand that essentially it's going to be a 24/7 slowdown of traffic to 15 to 20 miles an hour. And I know I drive the highway every day, and I see, and I'm in traffic of multiple platoons of cars flowing through at the normal speed. To think that you can actually put the brakes on all of these cars and not have just horrible gridlock, which would include blocking access for people getting in and out of the highway. That's
Thank
the
you.
one I disagree with.
Thank you. Next is, I'll just do like, how should we build more affordable housing on the Midcoast to help support our teachers, first responders, and essential workers who would like to live here locally? How should we build more affordable housing on the Midcoast to help support our teachers, first responders, and other essential workers who would like to live here locally? And first is Andra Anderson.
Well, I think essentially that's what the Midpen housing was for. When I did some research on that, when you talk about low income, my first thought was that it was for Section 8 housing. When I lived in Los Angeles, that's what low income was. When I realized it was for the a certain percentage of the median income here, that was a level that I didn't realize. So I think that's how you get housing for people of those income levels on the coast side. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Dan Hagerty.
Well, I think the housing issue is changing rapidly. I've been noticing a lot of for sale signs and a lot of for rent signs. I think that overall, big affordable housing projects are not the solution. I think that in some areas, not everywhere, but in some areas that make sense, they have these ADA, accessory dwelling unit ideas. Honestly, I'm not a favor of being overwhelming. The coast traffic and parking would be a major issue as a result of too many happening at the same time. But I think that there should be some kind of a lottery. I'm not sure. I haven't, but somehow, some people are renting out rooms, tiny houses. Thank you.
Thank you. And Greg Dieges.
Well, they touched on an important topic there because the rise in rental properties out here has actually decreased, in my opinion, the supply of available housing. I think the associated dwelling units make some sense, but there's two things that should be noted. The Federal Fair Housing Act actually prohibits preference and placement in that kind of housing. I just received that confirmation earlier today, and we've heard it before. So the idea that Cypress Point, for example, is going to be populated by people who work here and want to live here is actually a fiction because it's not enforceable. So there needs to be a law change if we want to favor those service workers. Further, I think there's room for a different solution, which is for businesses to have to pay a living wage to the people they employ so they can afford to live here, and even possibly for corporations to fund the housing because they're the ones that are profiting from the workers. Now, I'm not saying that the 19th century mill and coal towns worked wonders as a social institution, but the concept that corporations help pay for the cost of the workers they require to profit is something we ought to consider.
Thank you. This will be our penultimate question, or next to last. You talked about in the beginning what issue was the most important to you, but what is the issue that is most of interest to you personally? What issue on the coast side is most of interest to you personally? And for this, we will start with Dan Hagerty.
Thank you. Keeping the community with a small town rural feel and no giant sore thumbs sticking out forever. I would say that encompasses, a reasonable traffic flow. There will always be heavy traffic, but there are some things that we can do to lessen that. And I've talked about those before. I think that, the small town feel, encouraging the agricultural community, and, just keeping keeping the open space and keeping the ocean views.
Thank you. And next is Andra Anderson.
I agree with Dan on keeping the rural feel of the coast side. I also believe that it's important to keep the recreation for the visitors and for the residents. We have a natural, beautiful area that all people need to be able to enjoy. I also am passionate about keeping certain aspects of the coast side as natural as they can be. Like, for instance, there's an area of eucalyptus trees where the monarch butterflies come in and breed. And there's things about the coast side that I really would want to keep on the natural level. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Greg Dieges.
Well, you've heard my big topic, but I think on a personal level, the important stuff is what my fellow residents have been talking to me about. And that ranges from noise abatement to the need for traffic signs at 7th and East in Montera to improve crosswalks, more dog walking opportunities, more recreational opportunities for our children, center turn lanes and safe crosswalks in Moss Beach. So I think those are the personal issues that are important to me because they're important to my residents. Finally, I want to confess to a bias for action, and I just can't stand not seeing things done right. So what makes it personal for me is to get this stuff fixed. It should be doable.
Thank you. And our final question is, what special talents or qualifications would you bring to this office? What's your unique talent or qualifications you would bring to this office? Or, as I like to say, what is your superpower? And for this, we'll start with Greg.
Well, at the risk of inflating my qualifications, we didn't talk about my career, but I have a habit of getting things done. And in memory of John Lewis, I would like to cause some good trouble out here. I would like to see a bunch of things get fixed. And that includes rational planning, recognizing the carrying capacity of the region, which also dovetails in with preserving the character, being sustainable. So my superpower, I hope, is going to be getting things done. But I will only be one of 7 members of this council if elected. So I better be able to collaborate because that's how things are going to get done.
Thank you. And next is Dan Hagerty. Dan, what's your superpower?
I would say people skills, the ability to be able to walk away from a get nowhere argument and stick around when constructive questions are asked and be able to share information. Taking the time, the personal time, to be out there and to sometimes knock on doors, sometimes stand in front of the post office, sometimes just talk to people at restaurants here locally, wherever the opportunity arises, to just communicate with the community and make sure that they know what's going on and know the troubles we're against.
Thank you. And finally, Andra Anderson.
I would say my superpower is to be able to listen to all different sides of the issue, and to be fair and honest, to research every angle of an issue and only make a determination and a decision after doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it is time for the closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and we will reverse the order from the opening statements. And while they get ready to go, I'm just going to remind everyone that you can get more information about the candidates on the League's website, votersedge.org. All right, it's time for the closing statements. And first is Dan Hagerty for 2 minutes.
Okay, well, I just want to go over my achievements in my 9 years here on the Midcoast Community Council. At some point in time, they were proposed to change all of the Midcoast lighting to bright white LED lighting, and I was the only person against it. I fought initially, gathered community support, And today we can still see the night, we can see the stars at night because we don't have a flood of super bright white light throughout our community. I challenged the stoplight at the Graywell Cove in favor of a pedestrian underpass. I've got 1,000 signatures on a petition with the help of a lot of community members that I worked with. I worked with the Department of Public Works. They started out with some of these ADA sidewalk intersections, putting these obnoxious yellow bumpy pads. They're now installing gray bumpy pads that kind of blend in a little bit better. And, you know, there were many other communities that were using this same technique, and it just took a little work. We were on it. I had some help from other community members, council members. Also matching the color of the, when they do the concrete work in the middle of the corner of the intersection, a lot of times, historically what they do is they don't care about what the adjacent color of the concrete is. They just pour uncolored, pure white, the gum stains, the tire marks. It's just blinding. It's a bad idea to have uncolored concrete. And I got the Department of Public Works to work the best they can to kind of match. It hasn't always happened, but they're on it.
Thank you. And next is Greg Dieges.
A couple of minor points. I would mention, if you favor diversity, and I'm elected, I'll be the only resident of Montera on the MCC. I'm also endorsed by the North Peninsula Democratic Club. And I want to just go back. I talked about my first duty is going to be to listen. My second duty will be to cooperate. As I mentioned, I'm only going to be one of 7 voices on this council. I've already learned a lot from some of the senior members on the council, like Dave Olson and Lynn. And I continue to I expect to learn and cooperate with the other council members, as I currently am with Barbara and Dan on the issue of fire preparedness. I want to just punctuate my concern about sustainability. That is a polite term for survival. And both of that and affordability are at risk here on the Midcoast. Some of the things that are proposed to expand population are going to increase the cost of water and decrease affordability out here. So there's a real tension. So I've done a lot of work without being on the council, as I think I've spoken to previously. You can read my articles on Coastside Buzz and understand what I'm thinking. I'm always open to learning. I like to think I'm an evidence-based guy. So I hope you'll honor me with your vote. I promise to listen, to cooperate, think, educate, and act in your behalf.
Thank you. And finally, Andra Anderson.
Well, I know I have no public service experience, but if I'm elected to the position, I will take the role of advocate for the community seriously and will do my best to be sure that the views of the community are relayed to the county in a fair and clear manner. I also believe that my lack of public service experience is a benefit in a lot of ways, where I come with no preconceived notions or ideas, and I can be fair and listen to the community, take their comments and their recommendations and think of them in a fair manner and communicate them out with no preconceived notions on the issues that will be put before the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy, it's time for our slides. Again, all the candidates have been invited to enter their information and link their own websites to the league site. Voters Edge.
You're ahead of me.
No, I'm just stalling with the Voters Edge spiel.
Oh, I see.
So remember, one more, click one more to make it bigger.
There we go.
Yay. So reminder, Election Day is Tuesday, November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. The San Mateo County and all of California this year is all mail-in. All registered voters will get a ballot in the mail. Those drop October 5th. So you'll get them sometime that week. There are 3 ways to return it. You can mail it in, the envelope is postage paid. You can use a county drop box, and you can visit a vote center. The locations for the drop box and the vote centers are at SMC Acre at San Mateo County. That's the assessor's office, but it's right there on the slide. That will have all the locations of the drop boxes and vote centers. And at the vote centers, you can vote in person and you can exchange your ballot if you made a mistake or want to change something about it. You can do whatever you need to do at a vote center for sure. And don't forget to sign your ballot. Very important. That's an easy one to forget. More information, every registered voter will get a sample ballot. You'll also get an official voter information guide in the mail. There's also the Easy Voter Guide. You can look that up for information on candidates and all the propositions, and as well as I mentioned, our Voter's Edge. And finally, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, and membership is open to both men and women of voting age. You can join us if you are interested in helping us increase civic participation in your community with forums like this and other activities. We're at LWV North Central San Mateo County, ncsmc.org. Now, in conclusion, it's a hard job running for office. It's a very brave thing to do, and we really thank and applaud the candidates for getting out there and doing it for Midcoast Community Council. And finally, Lynn, do you have any last words? You're on mute. There you go.
There. Okay. I want to thank all of the candidates who participated in the forum, as well as the League for putting it on. We're very pleased to sponsor this and have found the virtual forum works very well, thanks to your good organization for it. So the links for the video will be posted on our website probably tomorrow, and we'll circulate those to the League as well.
Great. All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.